Hello, everybody. I'm Kelly Hampton at kelly-hampton.com. I'm on a little early, making sure everybody can hear me. This is my third live YouTube video, and want to make sure you can hear me. Hi, Debbie. I'm a little early. Maybe you can let me know. Oh, yay. Hi, Katrina. All right, great. Sometimes things don't work. Well, thanks for joining me. We'll probably wait for a few more people. I'm a bit early, but I'd like to spend about 30 minutes. We'll see, how interactive this is. But I'd like to discuss this mystical trip to Italy that's upcoming, and do some live channeling with Archangel Michael about the trip. And if some of you have been to Italy before, I welcome that. I've been to Italy before, but I've not been to where we're going. And in that case, that will be Assisi, Italy, and Monte, St. Angelo. And I'm very excited about going. Maybe just a brief note about me, if you're not familiar, because I'll be airing this in the travel section. I'm an advanced channel and an alchemist. I might identify myself also as a medium, because I am. And maybe let me know where you all are from if you like. This, spiritual, I am here to anchor the Christ grid onto planet Earth. I'm also a Palladian, and you can find me at kelly-hampton.com if you're unfamiliar. So I've been led to retreats. My first sacred journey, I do other work, of course, to try to help people and animals on our planet. Hello, a Midwesterner. Yes, I do most of my work remotely, although there are occasions where, I've been guided to do work on our planet, physically go. And so my first sacred journey was to Mount Shasta, California, and that was about 5 years ago when Archangel Michael asked me to go. I hear guidance. So again, if you're not familiar with me or what a channel does, I hear guidance. And that hearing has led me to listen for books from Archangel Michael, guidance from many other guides, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, Mother Earth, Jesus Christ, Yeshua, whatever your name for Jesus is, many intergalactics. And so it's a journey that I didn't really expect to be on as a young adult, and certainly as a child. But before, I don't really want to talk too much about me unless the question comes up. But it does influence, perhaps, someone's decision on if this call to Italy, and perhaps these other journeys that I'll be describing more briefly, speak to you. You have to be comfortable in all matters. So back to Mount Shasta. So sacred portals. So I've been there 5 times now, and we will be going back again in June. So if those of you have a mind to travel and be with like-minded souls and experience spiritual growth for yourself, our planet, whatever the group kind of dictates. What I bring to the party, I believe, is really everything that I can download or share from my work with the masters, the elementals, certainly all the angelic realm, the intergalactic realm. Again, either to help us, help our planet, or help you personally. So just real quickly. So Mount Shasta is in June. That's coming up. There is still some room. That's a weekend journey. For the second time now, there's 1 or 2 spots left, Glastonbury. So I've chosen or been directed to these places on our planet so far that are connected, and they're connected by, different things. Let's say we might read them as portals, stargates. Maybe some of you have heard the word about ley lines. And so Glastonbury, for if you're unfamiliar, this will be my second trip. If you're unfamiliar, there's a long line of Archangel Michael and Mother Mary's that runs through England. And so when last year and this year, again, when we return in July, when we go there, we have intention, and of course the intention is to immerse ourselves in some of the culture, but these are not, if you were interested in just a travel trip, then you'd be talking to a travel agent, not me. But in any event, so we did work. We could say alchemy. We did spiritual work. Michael guided us largely, although Mary did, and many of the masters came through in Glastonbury with, again, not only messages, but work as a light worker or someone with a caring heart, even if light work isn't your profession like it is mine, to enrich us or to restore something to the earth, restore harmony or restore more love, and remove toxins of war and these kinds of things. I mean, I feel as though if any of the ladies and gentlemen from either one of those journeys is on our call, I think we have a lot of fun at the same time in this experiences. So every group and every place is unique unto, of course, those who join us. We have itineraries. So England, we're going back to in July. The primary emphasis of today's live time with everybody is to talk about Italy. And Italy, my Italian retreat will be the first time I go to Italy. And again, it's sort of on my bucket list to work along another long line, and we could call it a ley line if you're familiar, of these magnetic grids that encircle us and encircle the earth and connect in these sacred portals. The pyramids are another place. Stonehenge is another place. There's many places. And so that being said, my intention is let me finish this. As I know it, the line, the Athena and Apollo lines are energetic places where sacred, power spots happen. And Assisi certainly is one of them. So the line itself, I believe, begins up in like at this little island. I think it's called Skellig Michael. I think it's in Scotland. And it runs through France, all the way through Italy, all the way through Greece, I believe, all the way through Mecca. So it's kind of a two-part immersion. The dates are September. I'm going to reference my notes. September 22nd through the 27th in Assisi. Has anybody been to Assisi? I have not, but we will be having for those that feel moved to join us, we'll be having a guide, bilingual guide. He's bilingual in Italian and English. And we've sourced, I have an assistant who's tremendously helpful. And so we've sourced to stay at one of the top five meditation centers in Europe, although we'll be doing quite a bit more than meditating. So that's what we'll be doing. That's where our retreat starts. We're recommending most people fly into Rome. And again, if you're moved and inspired to join us on any of these, and I've left something out and you comment in or view this later, by all means, you can send me an email at kelly@kelly-.com. And then, as I promised before we're finished, we're going to bring in Archangel Michael and see if he wants to guide us with some other things that he'd like to say to those of us that are journeying on any of these journeys. So you can find all the complete details about the Italian retreat or pilgrimage on my website if I don't cover everything here. The lodging is going to be, again, in Assisi at the retreat center that we've sourced. And some of the places we're going to be visit are going to be this tomb of St. Francis, which, by the way, my guides, maybe 30 years ago now, been doing this a while, asked me to study him. And at the time, I was just bits of information were just, it was like an immersion. I believe that if we're a starseed, there's a particular time where our awakening comes about. And my awakening was about in my late 30s. So at that time, they asked me to study St. Francis. They layered in some teaching for me. And so I did some, but again, that was way long ago. Excuse me, I'm not Italian. So San Damiano, hope I did that right. Santa Maria del Angeli, the birthplace of St. Francis. At this retreat where we're going to be staying, excuse me, at the accommodations, if you're vegan, you're gluten-free and all those kinds of things, you can read about it. That'll be included. So I feel as though we'll be in good, safe, comfortable accommodations and under good care. The other thing I'd like to talk about is, thanks, Katrina, thank you. Have two change. Oh, okay. She's changing her battery. Before I move on to the second part of the journey, so the dates of that, and there's an early bird registration that ends just because guides have to be, secured and paid, the accommodations, etc. So that early bird registration with the deposit ends May 31st. So maybe, even though the journey is until September, late September, that's something you might want to consider, that if the journey moves you, you can have additional savings that way. I think I'll ask Michael about Assisi at this time and just help you familiarize yourself. I don't close my eyes when I'm a channel normally. That's called trance channeling, and I'm not a trance channeler. However, sometimes I do not remember what's been shared with me over the years. I have to reread Michael's books, the Book of Animals, Into the White Light, 2012 and Beyond. Those are the texts so far. And many other guides. I have to kind of re-listen sometimes. So I'd like to bring Michael in here and ask him if he has something to share with us about Assisi. Sometimes in retreats or prior to a retreat, once someone might be called to attend, Michael will ask them to bring something. And if I can share with you briefly some experiences. Last year when we went to Glastonbury, Archangel Michael asked someone to bring a piece of a broomstick without really much explanation. And so the participant or pilgrim was happy, to do so. And so he developed that tool over the course of that retreat. And he's done the same thing this year already with those that have signed up for Mount Shasta. That's a weekend retreat. Glastonbury, a few souls have been given an object to bring for our expansion. And if you yourselves are called to come and you yourself don't have the intuitive knowingness about what to do with something, well, then I'm here to help you. But there's certainly lots of opportunities when souls are in places that are of greater power. It's easier to make a connection. I think everyone might agree with me about that. Just as it can be more difficult to make a connection or have your channels open when the energies are dense. So what I'm trying to say also is that if don't consider yourself clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairknowing, connected with your high self in your life where you are now, many times that just kind of, when you're in an elevated space, even without my help or the collective consciousness of the group's energy, it will happen. And so whatever the case may be, I think most people find it very interesting. I hope they do anyway. when Michael asked someone to bring some objects, seemingly out of the blue. They're not sacred objects. Certainly a piece of a broomstick isn't. I believe he's asking someone to bring a box of crayons to Glastonbury. Be interesting to see what we're going to do with those. What else has he brought? Maybe some of the gals and guys will remind me what the objects are. One year in Mount Shasta, Michael asked us to bring someone to bring a compass. So we brought a compass, and when we were on the mountain in the sacred portal, it's one of the 5 sacred portals or chakra openings on our planet, considered by many anyway, and also the home of the ancient Lemurians and Tetelos. It just spun around and around and around. It never did point us anywhere, and so there's learning in everything. It was kind of a joke because we thought we were going to use it to go somewhere, but he was teaching us about energy and where we were. And so I'm sure as a little bit more time goes on, Michael will be asking, and they're totally optional, but just trying to give you an insight on what goes on in these retreats. And, much of it is spontaneous. Yes, we have an itinerary that has to be in place, but what occurs for people and as the group, spirit leads us. And so there is a spontaneity on all of these retreats of what happens by nature. And so anyway, let me bring in Michael. Michael, do you have something to share with those about what we're sharing about, particularly Assisi? Is there something you'd like to say, please? Okay, this is what I'm starting to hear. He's saying, I've been waiting for this opportunity for many moons now to enlighten and spend a brief span of time with the hearts and minds that have made space in their own lives, knowing that your lives are very important to us. Every breath is very important to us. So with some form of introduction that I've just made, I would like to say that we have full confidence in not only the vessel that is speaking to you at this time, but we also have admiration for each and every one of you who have chosen to spend some of your time to learn and share. Sharing is an aspect I think she's not yet mentioned very directly about what will occur. Sharing of information, sharing of heart, sharing of unity, sharing of joy, even sharing of sorrows. Because the environment where she's talking about in the Italian coast, particularly the cities, there are many others that she'll be addressing. The energies will come from other cities, of course, but because they're energy places, I would also myself add in there that energy releases, toxic releases may be personally experienced. Thanks, Michael. That's a good point. And so to which we would just say, moderate the pace at which, he's telling me, moderate the pace at which I download information. And we'll have that moderation, Michael, because at least in Assisi for sure, because we're going to have time for meditation. And if someone wants to do yoga, they have yoga facilities. So we will have time for integration and processing, but I appreciate the point about that. So do you have more to continue, please? He's suggesting for now that he's telling us that there are 2 main forks of energy that meet in Assisi. And is that the Apollo and the Athena line? Yes, he's saying you could imagine that they look like forks, left and right, that come and meet there. And some of you will feel, he's saying, some of you will feel the influences. Is it divine feminine? Is it divine masculine? Do they meet in the middle and make a node? Or like your heart center? Do you have the left hemisphere of your bodies and the right hemisphere and they meet in your heart? Or some would say they meet in your third eye. So the similarities or the analogy that I'm trying to make are worthy of investigation. I'll leave it open-ended so the group can investigate it more when the group is there. But there will be tangible evidence, he's saying, and tangible experiences for those who are present to feel what I'm calling these 2 kind of forks kind of like a divining rod, comes together. Energies, and there will be places for play, he's saying. He said, I'd like to make that well stated, as you did. There's place for play. Work can be done with playfulness, with and an openness to releasing the past. So those in attendance will find, in fact, he's telling me that there'll be exercises where he would like us to directly work on this left, and let's call it right, energetic influences that come together in the node in Assisi. Okay, thank you. Is there more you'd like to share about Assisi? Too much to go into. How about a prayerful something before moving on? Then I know there's plenty to be shared and learned. Some people return to sacred sites over and over and over again, and their basket still isn't full of what they want and hope for. What else would you say, please? Oh, he's saying, make time for personal expression. Okay, so I feel what he is referring to is what usually happens in these journeys is Michael encourages us to bring a journal or some kind of book or journaling again to recapture what's going on. Is that what you're asking? Yes, he's saying it, and also he wants to teach us a little bit about willow bark. That's what he said, willow bark. And what about the olive trees that are so referenced in Italian landscape and history and art, Michael? What about that? He's saying, yes, we will do some organic work with Mother Earth and with symbols of the olive tree, but also the willow tree, he's saying. Okay, thank you. Is there more about this at this time? He just said, expect the unexpected. Okay, that's usually how it is. Anything else we need to know? Anything else that someone that might be journeying to help them decide whether this is right for them or not? Well, he's just saying, I will be there present and accounted for, he's saying, along with many other hosts of angels, guides, and some might even say mystical figures that you may not have heard of. But I'm with you. I'm with each and every one of you all the time anyway, he's saying. He said, I think we should leave it open-ended as I find myself being drawn to talking about the other area. So let me just cut into the channeling for a moment and continue on. And if you have any questions, I certainly can slow down and, chat them in or something. Thanks for the thumbs up. All right. So once we leave Assisi, and we'll have a shuttle in Assisi to get to some of these places. Otherwise, I understand it's a small town and we'll be walking there. Just went to your site for a minute and my ears started ringing and I felt a shift. What was that? Oh, well, thank you. I'll ask Michael, but I have heard that before. I would imagine that some people feel energy and others don't, and others will. We're all, we all have that. That's all part of us. Maybe another time I'll talk about why and how that was diminished from us. What? The feeling of energy, the feeling of all knowing, the feeling of all love. Okay, I'll just touch upon it very briefly here and say that my understanding and knowing is that there were implants and codes placed within us to keep us separate. Okay, great. So that's how Star Healing Intergalactic and why that healing system came into the planet. So also, I guess I would also just say, usually in the evening on a retreat, I like to, and my assistants like to plan some time where you're on your own. You can just, sometimes people are more, if you've been in a group all day long and you want to collect some time and be by yourself, we honor that. But we also like to put in some time of, group evening, whether it's a group dinner, there might be a group optional lecture or process that I do. There might probably also, when we look more specifically at the itinerary for the evenings, probably a time where we recapture or recount. Maybe it's lunchtime where we share what's going on. And, that's very important, I think, because that's the part of the purpose of these experiences is to share and form a community, I feel. And so that's put into place. In Glastonbury, we're having a goddess night one evening. And so Italy, I'm not quite sure what all of those details will be. That will be defined in the next month or so. So we have accommodations. We've made arrangements so that travel from Assisi down to the Puglia region of Italy, which there's a map on my site, or you could subscribe to my newsletter if you haven't and find more information, certainly, or ask here. But so Assisi's up here, basically. We constructed this trip to be accessible. We did. We put quite a bit of time in trying to make it affordable, gave it quite a bit of thought about what cities to include and what not to. So as it's worked out, and I'm very happy to say, as it's worked out, we'll be going to Monte Angelo. The dates are the 27th through the 30th of September. The 29th of September, if you're not familiar, is often referred to, or always referred to, I suppose, as the Feast of St. Michael. And it's a big celebration. It just is. And we have an itinerary based because there'll be many other people from all other parts of the world. So when we go to the cave of Michael, our accommodation there, I guess I should say, that's already been arranged and secured for us. It's called the Palace Hotel San Michele. Again, it's in St. Angelo, Italy. It's a 4-star hotel. It overlooks the Gulf of Manfredonia, which looks beautiful. I guess even in black and white. So I understand the region, the Puglia region, is very beautiful. And when I went to Italy before, I was in Florence, Rome, and Venice. And it was not the type of journey. That was a pleasure vacation. This is a sacred journey. In any event, the hotel is right within walking distance, walking of where we're going to be going, what our itinerary is. So real quickly here, September 27th, arrived from minibus transport from Assisi to our hotel. September 28th, visitation to the shrine with processes from myself, and we trust that will work out. We plan that day because there's many ceremonies from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. at night or something. Too busy, too much going on then. So we're gonna do our visitations and do our work there. September 29th, sometimes it's referred to as Michaelmas Day. So due to the number of masses, we've elected to reserve a portion of that day to go to the shrine of Padre Pio. And if you've not heard of Padre Pio, some of you may have heard a little bit about Padre Pio as the saint with the bleeding hands, that the stigmata was in Padre Pio's hand, and he was a very dedicated servant. September 30th, morning checkout with transport back to Rome International Airport for those who are leaving Italy. So the transport is also included from Monte St. Angelo there to Rome. Some people are already registered, I know, and they're planning to arrive early, and some of you, I believe, might be staying later. So whatever you do, those before or after our retreat, those are certainly your opportunities to explore the country even further. I'd like to ask Michael about the cave or the grotto. I understand is magnificent. I've just seen pictures of it. Again, I've not yet been there. I don't know what type of apparitions we might see or feel again, but I'd like to ask Michael about what some of us might be able to expect outside of what's written on an itinerary there. And let me just invoke him. Michael, what about Mount St. Angelo, please? What about the grotto, please? Do you have like some hints or tips for us, please? He's saying, no one knows themselves greater than the God mind creator, sacred energies, source energies, all that is, infinite mind. He's saying, yes, it is true that there have been apparitions in many places of the world, and these continue to go on today, of many holy figures that present themselves for the purpose of healing. Also, Padre Pio, many times people find themselves miraculously healed by visiting certain places that you'll be attending. It's not as though it's a promise that I'm suggesting to souls, but I am suggesting that the idea of miracles can occur in everyone's everyday life as well. It is my intention to be present, of course, front and center in the grotto itself. I would recommend that you plan on spending more time there than you initially have. Okay, thank you. Why is that? Do you want to tell us why? Do we need to know why? He just said because I'm long-winded. Michael, you won't be our only beloved guide while we're there, will you? Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Mother Earth, Yeshua, Saint Germain, Padre Pio, all the other saints. Tell us about this, please. He's just saying we have a divine plan, as we do for all souls that come to this area, who open their heart, whether they're sightseeing, as you might say, or whether they are monks in the Himalayas or Himalayan mountains. He's saying we welcome all souls of all natures, all customs, no earthly religion, all earthly religions, no one of self, all one of self, he's saying. So we feel as though that many of the souls might be overtaken with feelings of bliss. How joyous is that? However, bliss is something that isn't a place where you have to go to obtain bliss. What I would suggest are two things about this part of your journey. One, because I feel some souls will be overtaken by bliss, you might find that they also need water to refresh and bless, and a pillow. He's saying a little pillow. Some I would take a heart-shaped, he's saying some will be taking a heart-shaped pillow. Not everyone. Someone else, it appears to me, will be taking a locket, much like you wear around your neck. That's a charged code, he's saying. Someone else will be wearing a locket, he's saying. Someone else, I feel, will be carrying a raincoat over their arms. And why are you going over this matter, Michael? These matters. As a means, he's saying, as a means to set the mood, he's saying. Fair enough. Okay, in the bliss, we might need integration, right? It's a frequency that maybe some of you've never felt in your life, you know, a reverence. Maybe you've never felt reverence, or the frequency of humbleness, or some of you might have not ever felt the frequency of unconditional love. So that's what these masters will do and help provide you with, are these feelings, and not only help provide you with, but expand upon them. If there are requests to work on certain things in our world, to eliminate them, we'll share them as a group. Our guides will tell us what to do. If there are places where there's anger stored in the ground, if there's places where there's dysfunction of all types, treachery, deception, horrific things, we can direct our attention and unite our hearts and minds together and remind ourselves how powerful we are. In the last 4 or 5, 6 years of my spiritual work, what's taken me outside of my home is so that I can unite more fully with more people, although it can be done certainly in a group like this. In fact, maybe before we close, if there aren't questions, I'll ask Michael if there is something or someone that we could send some healing energy over to from where we are, from our home space. This is nothing new. It's sending energy to somewhere else, but getting out and doing it on the soil and being in physical connection with like-minded souls. And plus, forming communities is what many of the masters ask us to do, particularly because there's can be so much isolation in the world and the way we work. So to that end, I would say, Michael, my friend, constant companion, is there someplace in Italy, please choose one segment or one city or one something that those that choose to put some energy behind can do so. Where would that be, please? Okay. Well, Michael said the Vatican. So, all right, my friend. And what would you like us to do there? Everybody can intend what they want, send love there? Or do you want us to work with some codes, please? Or however it works best. He's saying breathe. Oh, hi, Pat. Thanks for joining us. So if you could just join us, we're asking Michael to, he's for what type of healing he'd like us to send to the Vatican. We're, other than flying into Rome or flying out of Rome to get to where we're going first, which is Assisi, we're not doing any work there. But I'm going to listen now for what that is. Michael, what is that, please? Oh, he started to say breathing in. He said, just imagine you're breathing in pure light. Some of you, it may be difficult to imagine pure love. So let's say pure light, like the sunlight, golden rays of the sun. And with an exhale, imagine that your breath is like the beautiful wind that sails over and across the lands from wherever you are. It sails over the cornfields. It sails over the sand. It sails over currents of water and ocean in some cases. And it lands in the middle or the heart of the Vatican. It's really that simple. The intention is made that anything that falls outside of love, whether the focus is on corruption or greed or anything, or a homeless person, let's say, that's sleeping outside of the Vatican. So that's the area that I feel can use a breath of fresh air, literally. So on your breathing at your own pace, as many times as you might be called to, on the breath that you exhale, there are particles of, he's saying, tiny, teeny, tiny, not golden light. We hear this often. And yes, gold is a representation on your planet of love and in my cosmos as well. But not only, if you want to visualize these particles from the breath with the intention set, and by the way, that's how powerful the breath is, which can be sent to anyone. Most of the time we think about the words we say, he's saying is powerful. But when you breathe through and you imagine these golden rays, they stream through, and if you set the intention before you exhale and gently blow the intention, they, depending upon who you are, where you are, what it is, how dense things are, there's multiple means of magnified healing that comes with this, the power of the human breath. So in this particular case, imagine, he's saying, if you're not seeing these things, teeny tiny little sacred geometry forms like the Star of David. That like goes over in one bubble. Oxygen, air, bubble, you might imagine. Every little bubble, he's saying, with the intention of purification of anyone, anything around or in the Vatican that is not pure of mind, pure of heart. The breath, Mother Nature helps take the breath over, he's saying. But to think it's like nothing, to think that your breath is nothing is false, he's saying. It has its own life of its own. So he's saying, if I would have to leave now, he's saying, we'll do more work with breathing and the breath when we convene ourselves in the land of the midnight sun, where the olive trees grow and where many, many pilgrims have place their footprints in the soil to ascension. By the way, we're not picking on one particular place in a way. There are many places where a soul could look and see what, who, where needs more love. It might be your own neighborhood. It might be war-torn villages. It might be a shopping center. It might be high-rise buildings that are really not doing any commerce, but they're funneling minerals or something like this. So you see, this idea that love will prevail, that the world will become uniquely nirvana, is still our prediction. I'll use that word, and Michael never uses the word prediction, but he is now. So he's saying, I hope with a happy mind and heart I've added some robustness to the time here. And I trust those that feel called to come will come. Some will come next year, he's telling me, or telling us, and the year thereafter. He's just suggesting that there'll be 3 journeys to these regions before moving on or forward, he's telling me. So if there aren't any questions, I guess I'll just say thanks again for listening in, and hope to see you in Italy. Grazie. Ciao, everybody. Thanks.